right now on the Out Chicago, the Gaily Show is as you know, is a daily progressive news and talk show hosted by the good gays from way up north in Minnesota. And joining us now are GLAAD Media Award nominees John Parker and Jim Pounds. Hi guys, how you doing?
Good. We're your
What a
North
list.
Star. If you need to escape to Canada, you have to go up through us first.
Right. I know. We'll hang out there in the Twin Cities and do everything. Happy Pride, by the way.
Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
So, how are things rolling in Pride with Pride up in the Twin Cities?
Well, we were just at Golden Valley Pride yesterday. We were broadcasting live, which was really fun. It was the first time I had ever been there, and it was the first Pride that outside of Twin Cities Pride. So now there's like a whole bunch of prides within the Twin Cities. I don't know if it's the same in Chicago, but we got a lot of them
slowly expanding
in the
out
metro
into the suburbs.
region. Yeah. So it was my first time there. It was great. I haven't seen an official count yet, but I think there was over 8,000 people that attended. And we had 3 shows that were broadcasting there, not just ours. So that was Ellie Krug.
Oh, yeah,
you can hear Ellie Saturday afternoons, I believe, on WCPT. Is it Saturday afternoons? Anyway, Ellie Krug was there. She was fantastic, as always.
Of course. Amazing. We've been eating some queer joy. Like I said, I went to go see Stop That Train because we needed something silly and stupid. But this year, boy, oh boy, you're laughing right now. I see you all laughing. Look, here's the thing. You got to go see Stop That Train. Are you a fan of Airplane, the movie?
I am.
Okay, you're going to love it then. You're going to absolutely love it, Jim.
Yeah, I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's stupid with 4 O's. It's so great. But we need but this year really feels different for some reason. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just like where I am in my life journey. But everything feels just a little bit different when it comes to celebrating Pride. Even here in Chicago, it's Pride Month, but it just seems less. I don't know. There's something that's kind of going on, and this is got to be just a big year for y'all. I mean, what you went through earlier this year with ICE, the murder of Renee Good, who was a part of our community. What right now? What is the vibe like in Minnesota?
I think it's mixed. I think that it's impossible not to feel the weight of what has been happening. And there was just a report from the city of Minneapolis that said it was about $700 million that Operation Metro Surge cost just Minneapolis in the 8 weeks that they were here. So it's impossible not to feel that. There's been nothing in the case with Renee Nicole Good. I think they're still fighting to get her spouse. Her wife is still trying to get the car back. Because they're not doing anything with it. The feds took it, but they're not doing any investigation on it. So there's that's impossible to deny. I think that folks are also trying to say, well, it is Pride. Let's go have Pride. But then at the same time, I think, when we see that Tucson Pride shut down, Phoenix Pride, under bankruptcy, here we haven't had any that have fully shut down because corporations are, bailing on local prides. But there is, I think, to your point, Scott, this sense of, okay, well, we're a year and a half in. Even when he goes, and he is going to go at some point, the movement is all still going to be there. Right. There's still going to be, Stephen Miller around. There's still going to be J.D. Vance. There's still going to be, Fox News. And so I think there is this question of what do we want Pride to look like? And here, especially when we have corporations like Target, we gave back the money to Target. They didn't take the money back. We gave it back to them because we're like, y'all are nonsense. You're fools. Go away. We don't even want you here anymore. So, but I do think there is this wrestling with, we want to celebrate Pride the way that we used to, but it's going to have to be something different.
I think we might be going back to a more the defiance that Pride used to be, the protest, the Pride, the anger, whatever fueled that. I think we're going back. I feel we're going back to that.
Yeah, but going back like kind of in a good way, not like going back to like the way things used to be, But like again,
Right.
I've said this a lot. I usually say this every Pride Parade because we broadcast live from the Chicago Pride Parade on June 29th.
Mhm.
Uh, uh, I think it's always a good reminder that to remind folks that people marched so that we could have a parade.
Right.
Mhm.
People took to the streets. This was a political moment. This was a moment defining, like, this is claiming our identity, claiming our rights as human beings and as American citizens. That this is no longer acceptable. This is like, we need to move forward. We need equality now. We are demanding equal rights. We are contributing members of our communities, and we're fabulous at the same
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
like that.
Well,
That kind of feels like the vibe that's going.
I think our Pride Parade for years has been targeted by activists who usually manage to shut it down for at least 40 minutes every year, usually around local issues. I think a year ago or 2 years ago, it was around Gaza and how the corporate people who are participating in Pride were not paying attention to that. So I'm going to be very curious to see what the protest is this year, because a Pride Parade is usually what, 2.5, 3 hours to begin with, and this one now drags over to 4.5 hours
Wow.
because there's usually a pretty substantial protest that shuts the whole thing down. So I am going to be curious to see what happens this year, because we're usually in the park. So we're broadcasting from the park, Loring Park. We don't cover the parade itself. You come, you end in the park, and then you got us.
Right, fabulous. What a great, it's the light at the end of the tunnel. You two,
Exactly.
the Gaily Show.
So, do you guys think since the murder of Renee Good that are people like more than ever just ready to get out there and march and show their solidarity and pride, or are people more afraid? I mean, which way is it going for people in Minneapolis?
I don't think. I mean, this was the cities that had 75,000 people turn out on a Friday afternoon
Right.
in negative 15-degree weather. And then another 50,000 a week later. We had over 100,000 for our No Kings protest and Joan Baez. So I don't think that Minnesotans are afraid of getting in the streets
Good.
right now.
Mhm.
I think that there's a lot of questions around, with this election coming up in the midterms. So in the midterms this November, we have a governor's race and the legislature is up. So there is this question of whomever takes control, is given control, what are they going to do to keep Minnesota protected from this administration? And there's a very significant fear that if the Republicans retain control of Congress,
Mhm.
that they will take that as a green light that, hey, the voters, they saw what we did in Minneapolis and they voted us back in, so we're going to go back in.
Mm.
There is that line of thought. Now, we talked to Steve Simon, the Secretary of State, last Thursday, and because we asked, like, are you expecting ICE to be at the polls? And he says, well, our office has to plan for everything, so we do have contingency for that. Like, they are planning
Yeah.
for ICE, but they're like, because of what happened, they're not expecting that to be where they go, because they're like, they got their hands burned. So, we're not expecting that, but it certainly is, on the menu, if you will.
You have to be expecting anything at this point.
Yeah. How are the races going up there?
I think, well, okay, so Republican has never won statewide office in Minnesota since, I think, 2006. So I'm not really worried about, me personally, I'm not really worried about the governor's races or the attorney general, secretary of state, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to be curious what happens with the legislature. Because we have a one-vote majority, the DFL rather has a one-vote majority in the Senate, and it's currently tied in the House. So there is a question of, okay, will we get back control of the legislature? There's also some questions around Amy Klobuchar, Senator Klobuchar. There is a lot of doubt that she will be as progressive as Governor Walz and the legislature was 2 years ago, when we had this super progressive, amazing legislative session. And it is actually this weekend the anniversary of the assassination of Representative Melissa Hortman, who was the Speaker of the House, and she got through all of that stuff. And so I think there's also that on voters' minds of, okay, well, we already had to pare back some of it because the Republicans and MAGA took control of the House. is Senator Klobuchar, when she gets into office, is she going to protect all of that? Is she going to advance that? And I think it's a legitimate question, frankly, of is Senator Klobuchar going to do that? But we'll see.
Well, hey, like I said, I think there's pride there seems to be a weight to it, and my wish and hope is that people who are participating in Pride not only show their joy, but also allowed to show their anger and show that they have a stake in what's going on. And I think that sounds kind of like what the vibe is happening in Minneapolis and the Twin Cities. It's definitely what feels like the vibe down here in Chicago. And I think it's largely also because of the work that you guys are doing too, to help, educate everybody about what's going on in our community. So thank you.
Keeping it front and center.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Well, I proposed a stunt to Chad Larson, which will never happen, but I said next year, why don't John and I broadcast live from Twin Cities on Saturday, get on a plane, go to Chicago, and be in the parade on Sunday?
That sounds great. Well, hey, come on down. We would love to have you. We've got air conditioning where we broadcast from, too, so you can come on in.
Ooh.
I know, we're high tone here. But in the meantime, you can always tune into The Gaily Show right here on WCPT at 10 p.m. on Mondays through Saturday. John Parker, Jim Pounds, thank you so much for taking time out. I know you've got you're just a busy weekend. That's what it sounds like. Happy Pride to you. And onward.
Yep. Keep doing the great stuff you
Onward.
do.
Happy Pride to
Onward,
you. Thank
Gaily
you for all
forward.
that you do.
Thank you.
Gaily forward.
Gaily forward. Take care.